Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Dan from Sweat and Service coming to you today with Just the Tip Tuesday. Here at Sweat and Service, we've been working on a lot of content. We've got a lot of good content to put out to you guys regarding a plethora of topics that we think will be of value to you in your day-to-day life. Very informative, not just off-the-cuff stuff that we're sharing with you, but stuff that through our experiences, whether it be in the fitness industry or military, law enforcement, day-to-day life, whatever, that we think will be of value to you. So I'm going to jump right into it today, and I'm going to talk about things from my law enforcement career. So I've been in law enforcement now for just about 6 years, and what I wanted to address is that there is definitely a anxiety that exists today between communities, people, and police, okay? And I don't have time today to get into all of that, but it is my sincere hope that as we put this content out, that I get to touch on some things that I know that will maybe help you understand the interactions between police and communities, right? From your point of view as well as my point of view, and understanding that I wasn't always a police officer, so I've dealt with police on both sides of the spectrum, right? So jumping right into it, right? Let's just talk about a traffic stop, okay? A traffic stop is a anxiety-producing situation for most people, right? They're driving along, they're going to the store, they're heading to work, they're coming home from work, not necessarily paying attention to, say, the speed limit, whatever, and they pass a police officer, right? From what I remember prior to being a police officer, I drove by one, boom, my foot automatically goes on the brake pedal, my anxiety spikes, right? I'm looking down at my speedometer like, how fast am I going, right? And all these things are going through your head a mile a minute, like, oh my God, right? Why that exists, I don't know. I know that I will tell you I had that prior to being a police officer. Now I drive by a police officer and I wave. Mostly because I don't speed, so I'm going, I know I'm doing the right thing, and B, because I've been in the law enforcement community for about 6 years, it's like I'm seeing my friend, right? But that's not the case for people that are not cops. So I recognize that. The other thing I recognize is the fact that for most people, it's been a hot minute since you thought about or were taught how interactions between police when you're in your car should go, right? Where was that addressed? Driver's ed. How long ago did you take driver's ed? A long time ago. So this isn't something that people are well versed in, which is why I wanted to talk about it today, okay? So say you're driving along, right? And you drive by a police officer, he pulls out behind you, right? Your anxiety's spiking, okay? Understand the first thing. One, he may or may not be pulling you over, okay? If the lights do come on and you think it's in a weird location, understand that where he might have saw and you commit an infraction, whether it be speed or crossing the line or following too closely or whatever it may be, where he stops you, it really has nothing to do with where the potential infraction took place, okay? And why I tell you that is because police are strategically, if they're good cops, are strategically picking a spot on the road that's going to be safe for you as well as for him, okay? And that goes to almost every facet of policing. Constantly thinking about officer safety, constantly thinking about the public safety. So if you're wondering, wow, it took him a long time to pull me over, why did he wait so long to activate his blue emergency lights? Now you know. A lot of it has to do with site selection. They may know that a parking lot's coming up in 3 football fields, and they'd rather stop you there in hopes that you'll pull in there, and now you're both off of the roadway, okay? So understand that. The second thing is, a lot of the times, because people are nervous, they feel the need to immediately speak and talk, and I understand that. I used to do that too when I was younger, but a lot of people ask immediately, why was I stopped? Why did you pull me over? What did I do wrong? Okay? It's all these things, and really, you don't need to talk about it right off the get, okay? I promise you, in 6 years, I have never stopped the motoring public at any point without explaining to them the reason for the stop. Just never happened. Didn't do it. So I can almost unequivocally state that the officer that stops you is going to explain the reason for the stop. Okay? So if you're someone who just needs to know right off the get, just understand you're going to have that conversation, okay? So, the next thing, very simple to do, is have your hands on the steering wheel, or have your hands on your lap, or have your hands in plain sight. All right, this goes a long way, okay? Here's the bottom line. It is a very dangerous and very tumultuous world out there, okay? There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of people carrying guns, okay, which I'm a Second Amendment guy. I'm all for it. Here in Vermont, we have essentially no gun laws, okay? So almost every vehicle I stop or encounter I have with someone, I just assume that they have a gun. So by you keeping your hands in plain view, that's really setting the officer at ease because he's able to see your hands, okay? Hands in our line of work are dangerous. Hands can keep an officer from going home at the end of his shift and back to his family. Hands are a big deal. That's why you may or may not have ever heard an officer say, do you mind just taking your hands out of your pockets for me? Okay, because I don't know what's in your pockets. So if you can at all, just keep your hands, right here, keep your hands on the steering wheel. It's all good. That way the officer knows, look, I get his hands, I control his hands, then he's safe, for the most part. So that's a good tip. Understand that they're picking a good site location, keeping your hands where the officer can see them, and not starting the dialogue about why the officer stopped you. He's going to tell you. The next thing would be having your documentation organized and ready to go. Okay? This sounds like it's no big deal, but really the time to know where your license, registration, and proof of insurance are located should probably be thought of prior to you having to hand it over to a police officer on the side of the road. And the reason I say that is it makes things a lot easier for you if you know it's right on my dash in this folder, or it's in this envelope in my glove box, or it's above my visor, or whatever. I've got license, registration, proof of insurance, whatever it is in your state. If you have that stuff ready, it just makes the amount of time that the officer has to spend with you roadside usually quicker. So you're going to be out of there quicker. He's going to be on with his day quicker. It's just a lot easier. And by the way, the major underlying thing is it's a lot safer. So having your documentation ready is a great thing. The last thing I would touch on a traffic stop is this. Being polite goes a long way. Okay, so whatever that means for you. I'm not saying that you have to call an officer sir, or you have to call a female officer ma'am, or officer or detective, or whatever their title is. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm saying that it goes a long way. And chances are, if he's a professional, he or she is a professional officer, they're going to extend you the same courtesy. So they're going to be referring to you as sir or ma'am. And it's just a good practice. It kind of starts things off on a good foot, and it's non-accusatory, and it's professional. So if you can understand that they're picking a good, safe stop location, if you can keep your hands in plain view so that they know you're not actively reaching for a weapon, if you can have your documentation straight, if you can wait till they tell you why they pulled you over, and if you can have and if you can be polite, then you are way ahead of the game when it comes to traffic stops, okay? And finally, in closing, I would say that if you do not agree with the reason the officer stopped you, whether you receive a verbal warning, a written warning, a traffic ticket, on the side of the road is not the appropriate place to discuss it, okay? So it's not safe for you, and it's not safe for the officer. That's why we have court systems. That's why it's your right to contest the ticket if you deem fit, if you do end up getting one. That's where the appropriate place to deal with that is. So it's not roadside. So never really a good idea to kind of have court on the side of the road. It's not good for the officer, and it's not good for you. And I guess I would say also that it would be great for people to know that for most police officers, writing tickets is like the least favorite part of being a police officer. So I've never really been around a lot of cops that are high-fiving or super excited about the amount of tickets they wrote that day. It's not really a source of pride. It's not, doesn't really get us going or get me going, so to speak. It's really the least favorite task or duties and responsibilities that I have as a cop. So just understand that they're not super, most cops are not super stoked to be out there issuing you a ticket for whatever the infraction is. So that's basically it. I hope that was informative. I hope that helped. And we'll be talking to you soon.